Okay, so largely inspired by Chris Schmidt doing tutorials for the Grayscale Gorilla. If you head on over to grayscalegorilla.com, go to the blog, and you can search right here, type in hydraulic, and you will see how to make a hydraulic arm in Cinema 4D Part 2 and Part 1. If you click on Part 2, Chris Schmidt will show you how to make these hydraulic pieces that we're about to do. Okay, so over here in Cinema 4D, let's get started. Just gonna kind of scope out on this project. This is right where we left off last time, and I'm gonna click on my controller and just reset the knuckle bend. There we go. Alright. Going to kind of slide over to the side a little bit, and we're going to create the hydraulics in part 3, Cinema 4D tutorial, robot arm part 3, and we'll be working on the hydraulic pieces today. So let's get started. First, I'm going to create a cylinder, and I'm going to use my move tool and move that cylinder down. And I need to change the orientation of that. I'm going to orientate it along the plus X axis. And there we go. I am then going to duplicate that. I can copy and paste it. That'll work. Or I can drag and hold control. Either way. Both ways work.
Dad, come here. Come here, Dad. Dad, you need to come.
Alright, and I need to move this cylinder down, so we'll just slide it down a little ways. We're going to be making a lot of adjustments to the geometry and the size of things after we move it over to where we need it, but for right now, let's go ahead here. And what's next? Well, we need to wrap this cylinder into a null, so we're going to use Alt-G to do that. And the reason we're doing it this way and not just making a null is because if I do it this way, then my null object has the same anchor point, position, rotation, and scale as the object. So you see here, both my anchor points are in the exact same location. So I'm going to delete this null. Alt-G, and there we go. That's how we're going to get started. Next thing we need to do is create the piece that is going to go this way. And if you've ever seen a hydraulic, you've got a really shiny piece that slides in and out of the other part of the hydraulic. So let's see here. I need a circle spline, and I need extrude NURBS. I'm going to drop. Yes, I'm going to drop my circle spline into the extrude NURBS, and then I'm going to drop my extrude NURBS into one of my cylinders, and then I am going to use my PSR reset so that it resets to here. First thing I need to do is take my circle and bring it way down, and roughly 30 is about where I want to be. The extrude NURBS, I'm going to use my movement and just increase this so that my arm is going that direction, and we'll just make it about halfway for now. Let's take this extrude NURBS, and I'm going to copy it, hold down control, drop it into my cylinder 1, and I am going to, let's see, we need to reset the PSR of this one. There we go. And I need to rotate it in 80 degrees. Now I can do that two different ways. 180 degrees. I can grab my rotate tool, and just swing it around this way. Holding shift will give me increments of 5. Boom, there I am at 80 degrees. If I command Z that, I can also go into my extrude NURBS, go to coordinates. I know that the rotation that I want is the pitch. I can go 180 here, press enter, and it will also rotate right where I need it to go. So either way, I'm going to grab this circle spline, go to object, and I'm just going to drop this one down a little bit because I need one of them smaller than the other one. And you can see here that they're not quite touching, so let's go to this extrude NURBS and we'll just crank this one up a little bit. It doesn't really matter, we can do that later as well. Okay, on to the constraint. I can close these up for now. So I've got my cylinders. One thing I need to do is I need something for my constraint tag to aim at. So what I'm going to do, let's see, how do I want to do this? I'm going to create a null object. I'm going to drop it as a child of my cylinder and reset the PSR. And then I'm going to pull it out of that hierarchy. I need it to be above my cylinder in this hierarchy. So that's very important. Okay, and I might as well copy this null and drop it into my other one, holding control to make sure I copy it, reset my PSR, then drag it out of that hierarchy.
Dad, come here. You need to check this.
Alright, so I've got those nulls set up, and let's add the constraint tag to my cylinder. So I'm going to click on my cylinder, click on tags, go to character tags, and I want the constraint. Another way to do that, and I'll do it on this one, is I can right click on the object, go to tags at the top here, and I want character constraint. Okay, so if I click on my constraint tag of my first cylinder, I'm going to add an up, which adds an up vector. Go back to basic, and I want to add an aim. So if I look at my aim, I'm actually going to need to change something here. Let's take this null, grab my move tool, and I want to move it this direction a little ways because I want my cylinder to always aim at this null. And that is why I had to pull it out of the hierarchy here. So I always want it to aim at that. So if I go to my constraint tag and go to my aim, I always want it to aim at this null. Now, the reason why it twirled around is I always want my x-axis to aim at that null. So I need to change that to my plus x. So my plus x axis is always going to aim at that null. Alright. Now for my up vector, I need to change the axis to the same as my other axis on my aim because I don't want it to rotate on any other axis. So this is going to allow it to spin around my x-axis. Alright, now I want the up vector to point along what axis? Well, I want it to point at this cylinder, and so that is my z-axis, but you can see here that my arrow is pointing this way, so that tells me that this is z plus, so I need z minus. So let's choose z minus here. And what do I want it to target? Well, I want to grab my other cylinder and I want to target that other cylinder. And I should be able to grab this null. Grab this null And I should be able to move it up and down, and it always points where I want it to point. So Command Z. Let's just go ahead and quickly set up our other constraint tag. We're going to do the same thing. We need an up and an aim. Our aim is also going to be on the X plus, and this one is going to be pointing at null 2. And then our up vector, we, let's see, let's grab our cylinder here. You'll notice that this one, we're going to change the Z from Z minus to Z plus. So the up vector is going to be Z plus on this one. Now the axis that we want it to rotate around is still the X plus. And the target will be my other cylinder. And that should be it. Now, when I'm doing this, the way I'm going to move these hydraulics is I'm going to grab the nulls. So I can call one top and one bottom. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I slide them over, you'll see why in a moment, but now it's working like a hydraulic. Okay, so there we go. And I can grab this one. Now, I highly recommend wrapping both of these into a null. And so I can draw a box around them both, or I can grab one, shift grab the other, and Alt G, call it hydraulic. There we go, and click on it, go to File, Save Object Preset. What that is going to do is ask you to name it, and then it will show up in your content browser. Now if you go to Presets, come down to the bottom, go to User Library, Objects, you'll see that you have that here, and you can just drag it out and use it as many times as you need to. So let's see. You can see here. Okay, so I'm going to delete that hydraulic. If you don't feel like making it part of your content browser and saving it for other projects, then I highly recommend right now to make a duplicate of it, because we need at least 2 of these for this project. So I'm going to zoom out, and we are going to take the hydraulic and we're going to move it over into place, and we'll drag it up. And I'm just kind of looking at one end of it right now, and this is why I called it top and bottom, because the top is higher than my bottom, so that just let me keep track of which was which there. Alright, so what I need to do is just make sure that these 2 are in place roughly where I want them, and I'm going to grab the bottom and drag that down, and drag it out. Now this one is hard to see from this perspective, but if I go into my side view, you can see that I can see my geometry better. And what I want to do is take the center point of this cylinder and kind of line it up and center it on that geometry. So that's better there. Alright, now it's time to adjust some of this geometry to make it fit into this better. So I'm going to take and expand both of these, and we'll start with the top, and I need to go to my cylinder. I need to change the radius of that cylinder, make it smaller, and I need to shorten the length or the height of that so that it pokes itself inside of the geometry. Now, you can have it stick out and then model the end like we did the pin if you want. That is purely up to you. For this example, I am just going to push it inside the geometry. Okay. That one's done for now. I do need to take my extrude NURBS and I'm going to lengthen this out. Now let's go to the other cylinder, and this one has to come way down in size. And I want to make it so it just fits inside of the place where it's sitting. So that will work for me. And then I want to also change the height so that it pokes inside of that geometry. And that's not bad. I need to take the size here and make this rod smaller. And this one actually is okay, but I'm going to make it smaller as well. So let's take and open this up. I need my circle spline, and I'm going to drop this down. 12's a little small. Let's go with 13. That'll work. And then I'm going to reduce the size of this one as well. And looks like, let's go with 20 on this. Okay. And so now our hydraulic looks a lot better. I like it, I like it. Okay, now the last thing we need to do is drop it into the right hierarchy. So I'm going to close these all back up so that I have my top and bottom. And my bottom is going to need to be a child of arm 2, and my top is going to be a child of the knuckle. So let's go ahead and do that. Just a simple drop it in. Okay, so here's arm 2. I need my bottom to be a child of arm 2, and then I need my top to be a child of the knuckle. Now I'm going to put it in this null. So top, drag into this hierarchy. I'm also going to take this cube 2 and this bottom piece and wrap them in a null, so Alt-G. And I'm going to call that arm 2 so that later that'll be easier to identify. The reason I did that is this is actually a hyperNURB object, and the way hyperNURBs work is they take the first thing in the hierarchy and they produce the effect. So I want I want arm 2 to be affected by that, and if I drop the hydraulic bottom and cube 2 into the hierarchy, then I might get mixed results. So just wrapping that in a null. Alright, I should be able to grab my controller now, and if I take my knuckle bend, you can see here that my hydraulic is working and everything's following the way it should. Let me just do my arm bend 2, and you can see things are moving the way they should. Now, what we need to do is set up our constraints, not to be confused with the constraint tag, but the rotation constraints for our user data. So right now we have a minimum and maximum of 0 degrees and 360 degrees. We need to change that, because if I rotate this to 90 degrees, you can see here that my geometry is intersecting. So I need to find the point where it's not intersecting, and I've done this enough times that I know that I can get to about 70 without it intersecting. So I am actually going to go with 68, I think. So the way to fix that is to go into user data here and go manage user data. And it's my knuckle bend that I want to change. And I'm going to change the name of this to knuckle bend. Earlier I changed the short name on accident. Alright, so right here I want this to be 68 as my maximum rotation. Now I know that 0 degrees levels this out. I want to go farther than that, so I'm just going to type in negative 50 for right now, and then I'm going to play with that and we're going to fine tune that. So now you'll see that I'm at my maximum rotation of 68 degrees. Let's bring this below 0 and see how far we can go. That's about as far as I want to go right there. Negative 32. And the reason is, if I go any farther than that, then this top extrude NURBS is going to intersect with the geometry of that pivot point, and we don't want that. So I know now that negative 32 is my minimum. So let's go into the user data, manage user data, knuckle bend, set my minimum to negative 32. Your values may be different depending on the size of your geometry and how you've set things up. I'm going to say OK. And while I've got this in this position, I also want to take, let's see, I'm going to expand. I want to see my top and bottom extrude NURBS because I need to change the movement of these. The bottom one's the one that I'm needing to change right now, so I'll come here and I want this to be as far along there as I can have it without it intersecting or popping through this geometry. So I'm going to crank that up, and I'm going to crank it up to right about there, and you can see that here it's not poking out. Now let's go to our controller, and we need to see if that's far enough so that, nope, it's not. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to come here and I need to go to my top extrude NURBS, and I need to extrude this out a little more. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make it so that I'm going to have to change my minimum on my user data, because if you watch, now if I come down to my minimum, see, this is intersecting here. So I need to change that in order to keep the realism, and I need to change it to negative 15. So let's go into user data, manage user data, knuckle bend, and change this to negative 15. Now you can play with this and change the sizes of your extrude NURBS to get more or less movement. It's fully up to you. I can make these longer or shorter, but you really don't want them poking out here or down here. So for me, negative 15 and 68 makes it so that I do not end up with a gap here. I'm not intersecting anywhere, and that works for me. So that is the hydraulics. That's the basic setup, and you should be able to use the same philosophy and add the hydraulics here. You're going to need to just take that other hydraulic that we created, and slide it over, move it up, move your top and bottom, get them into place, resize them so they fit. Make sure that you drop them into the hierarchies. So one of them is going to be a child of arm 1, the other one is going to be a child of arm 2, and then they will rotate correctly. And then you'll need to change your extrude NURBs so they're all long enough, and you will need to limit your rotation of your user data. So there we go, hydraulics.